Ray Irvin has been an insulin-dependent diabetic for 18 years. Now grocery shopping for him and his friend Jim Keane, another sufferer, has become a real science.
It was a random pick with me. If I saw low fat, high fibre, I throw it in the trolley. But now I know that I shouldn't do that.
Monitoring diet is the most important factor when treating diabetes, a complaint caused by excessively high blood sugar levels. These Super Sleuth supermarket tours are designed to make healthy shopping easier.
What we're looking for there is to find foods that have less than 8 grams of fat per 100 grams. And those ones in particular are especially suited to people with diabetes.
While it's not compulsory for companies to display nutritional labels, most products show a panel detailing their makeup. Gauging fat levels is important in treating the side effects of diabetes, which are often worse than the illness itself. Circulation problems are a key concern.
In diabetes, the circulation in some of the areas of the body can become blocked, and so we can get problems with hemorrhages in the eyes or blockages in the kidneys, the blood flow in the kidneys.
Tours will be conducted across the Hunter until Friday. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
After her course record-breaking 72 yesterday, Gloria Park was hoping for a similar effort at Merewether, but a disappointing start from the Sydney sider saw her drop 3 shots on the front 9 until she got one back with a birdie on 10. The comeback was short-lived. The wrong club choice on the next paid its price with a bogey, the Concord golfer going on to record a disappointing second round 82, qualifying 10th. Qualifying 1, Adele Bannerman. Consistency with the putter helped the leading Australian amateur consolidate on her opening round 75, 3 back 9 birdies on 12, 13 and 16, helping the Belmont golfer to a 1 over par round 72. The top 16 players progressed to the feature 3-day match play event. Hot on the heels of Bannerman is expected to be Natalie Parkinson. Buoyed by last week's win in the Victorian Open, the AIS amateur was next in qualifying after rounds of 72, 76. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
More than 250 sufferers in the Hunter this year. Already, this is almost double the number of cases recorded for the whole of last year.
We're really expecting to have well in excess of 500 by the end of the year if it continues this way.
While those suffering from the potentially fatal disease are across all age groups, newborn babies are at the greatest risk. Immunisation against the disease can only be administered to children under the age of 8, but in recent years these levels have been tapering. The Hunter Public Health Unit attributes the decline in immunisation rates to a complacency among many new parents. The unit urges parents of young children to think carefully before exposing them to potentially hazardous social situations.
These parents should be quite aware of anyone in their group of friends or relatives who have got colds and coughs, and they should try and keep their infant away from such people.
Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
Selection in the Knights is a week-to-week proposition, and Lee Jackson is the latest to discover Malcolm Reilly's philosophy. The British international has been dropped to second grade for the clash against Wests, opening the way for Brett Clements.
Jacko didn't overall have a bad game, but one or two guys did miss crucial one-on-one tackles. He missed one.
Troy Fletcher is another casualty from the loss to the Eels. Wayne Richards making his return from injury.
His amount of work, the work he does that doesn't go unnoticed to the purist, will be very needed.
The Knights expect their 2 millionth fan to pass through the gates on Friday, while Mark Hughes expects nothing more than a couple more of those Andrew Johns bullets.
since Andrew's been back, he's added a lot of enthusiasm to the side, and if I hang around out there, I know the gaps are going to come.
Sunday to Friday is a quick turnaround for the Knights, but not everyone's disappointed.
Well, I like the short week because now you don't have to train as much. So.
Hunter will have a new face in its run on side against Paris, although Tyron Smith didn't know it was him.
Put you in the starting lineup, that's what he's alluding to there. There you go, you happy with that?
Yeah, mate, yeah. I'm looking to perform, you know what I mean? Sort of get my game back in order, you know, and perform for the Mariners, you know. I know I can sort of play, you know.
Graham Murray does know the former Cowboy and Rabbitoh has made a great impression from the bench.
I thought he was fairly constructive when he did have it. He went forward and made a little bit of space for himself and his teammates. So I'll be looking forward to him seeing him starting a match.
It's not the only change for Sunday's game. Tim Maddison returns to the forwards and Nick Zisti replaces Keith Beecham. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
It was a celebration of a building destined to become one of Maitland's most famous landmarks.
As people become aware that the centre's here, they're just starting to call in. A lot out of curiosity, a lot because they want information, but the fact is that it's starting to settle into the landscape already.
The $750,000 visitors centre is testimony to what can be achieved when 3 levels of government actually cooperate on a project. Since opening its doors a fortnight ago, the centre has broken visitation records every day.
Over 80% of people look at more attractions once they get information from a visitor centre. So visitor information centres are vitally important.
The building and its surrounds are an eye-catcher with its unusual architecture, heritage values and artscape. The Mayor says the complex is also a cultural heart for the town, built on the events and people that have helped shape Maitland's psyche.
We look at the people that have come out of Maitland, everyone from Doc Evatt and Les Darcy right through to John Bell and Ruth Cracknell. We look at the effect that the floods have had on Maitland.
Those floods have been represented by 15 pole sculptures designed by Newcastle University art students. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
As a public relations exercise, Council's decision to disband its Environmental Services Department couldn't be more ill-timed. Pollution in the lake has been the centre of controversy after recent heavy rains washed high counts of faecal matter into the water. Now, as part of a streamlining process, Council will no longer have an environmental department, saving $100,000 a year.
Frankly, we can see a saving by not having this director in this particular section. It's a saving of about $100,000 to the organisation, and we think it's a step forward for good management.
Mayor Kilpatrick is quick to point out disbanding the department will not lead to a drop in environmental standards.
We're talking about one position, that's all, just the one position. Everybody in the environmental section are doing their job today that they were doing last week, the week before and the week before that.
The decision to disband environmental services has angered some councillors who claim the department is the last line of defence between industry and the lake. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The argument for amalgamations is bigger is better. Those in favour of super councils say if the local governments pooled their resources, they could provide better and cheaper services for residents.
If you had a city of 300,000 or 400,000 people, then you've got a very viable, regional, sensible, I think, organisation.
One super council would bring together Lake Macquarie and Newcastle and parts of Port Stephens, in particular Williamtown Airport. Even opponents of the proposal concede it could save money, but they argue it could also make councils user-unfriendly.
We can have the benefits that amalgamation brings by running joint businesses with other councils, and by maintaining the current boundaries, and we maximise the access of people, of the community, to councillors.
Another super council would combine the Hunters rural councils, including Maitland, Singleton, Cessnock and Dungog.
I think it should be looked at. I think that we'd be sticking our heads in the sand if we didn't look at it. But on the other hand, it couldn't be done without full public consultation.
But the public may not be the problem. If the plan is to succeed, it has to achieve the near impossible and get politicians to vote themselves out of office. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. It's been a pretty ordinary year for Newcastle Council, and it's just got worse. The survey of 500 residents gave Council only 2.8 out of 5 for its performance, barely a pass, the lowest rating since the Hunter Valley Research Foundation started the study in 1993. Lord Mayor Greg Hees says Council has been put on notice, but he argues it's already taken steps to improve efficiency.
We'll be streamlining the agenda and so that we're dealing with the most important thing.
That could help to prevent a repeat of the hotels fiasco, where decisions were delayed for months and building work has still not started. But Mayor Hees says the 2 hotel developments and the imminent departure of the BHP Steelworks shouldn't overshadow Council's achievements.
The Council, though, is also got a lot of good ideas and is delivering a good result.
The councillors may have been bagged by residents, but not so council staff, who were given the thumbs up and described as helpful and cooperative. Meanwhile, council has given in principle approval to Lingard Hospital's plan to open its doors for emergency patients. It would allow people with private insurance who are referred by a GP to escape queues at public hospitals at no extra cost. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
The World Club Challenge has been a breeze for Hunter. The Mariners remain undefeated in the competition despite some lacklustre form. Coach Graham Murray has called for an improved performance against Paris. Troy Stone will play no part, ruled out with an injured shoulder.
Darian Doherty comes into the side there and Anthony Brand on the bench. The physio seemed to think he'd probably need a week off, but he'll be right for the following week.
It's not the only concern. The squad has been hit with the flu, with several players in doubt for Sunday's match.
Yeah, we've just got to wait and see there. We're going to train tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. We'll run the rule over them there. But I guess after that, we've probably just got to hope they pull out of it by Sunday afternoon.
With or without their star players, the Mariners are still red-hot favourites to beat the tourists, giving 29.5 point start.
We've got a goal to win our next 2, and that gets us into the semi-finals of the World Club Challenge, and that's got to be a realistic goal, and it's very achievable.
And a big crowd has started arriving at Marathon Stadium for what should be a much closer affair between Newcastle and Wests in the ARL. The club hopes to welcome its 2 millionth fan at the game. If you can't make it, NBN's replay from 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The 56-year-old woman was arrested last night at the Rocky Point home she shared with 63-year-old Robert Gross.
She was taken to Wyong Police Station where she was charged with murder.
The arrest follows a 2-year investigation by the Major Crime Squad and Wyong detectives. The bricklayer disappeared in July 1995, his brother reporting him missing to police. The mystery of his whereabouts was solved on Friday. The body of Robert Gross discovered in a shallow grave under the Palmer Street house. A post-mortem has been completed, although the cause of death is still not known.
Now, at this stage, the post-mortem results are inconclusive and other tests are being carried out.
Neighbours today were still coming to terms with the discovery.
You think this thing only happens in the movies, not for real life, and especially not next door, so, yeah.
Police are refusing to confirm whether Operation Pinklaw is investigating the disappearance of another person close to the accused.
I can't either confirm or deny that.
The 56-year-old woman faced a bail hearing at Gosford today. She's been held in custody to appear in Wyong Court tomorrow morning. Jenny Crouch, NBN News.
I was really thrilled to be one of the 5 finalists, and it was a super bonus to actually be declared the Woman of Enterprise. But it is very important for women.
For many communities, it's a struggle to generate interest and support for Neighbourhood Watch, but not in Medford. Not since the murder of Philip White.
You know, we can't expect the police to do it all for us. We've got to do it as a community.
Hundreds turned out for today's picnic at Medford Oval, adjacent to the spot where Philip White was attacked as he walked home from the train station. His death focused the community's mind on the area's crime problem and gave rise to the Medford Community Patrol.
Crime rates dropped dramatically. Graffiti is virtually non-existent at the moment. Still get the odd tiny incident. But
their claims backed by local police.
Our statistical figures indicate that our crime rate here has dropped, and I'm hoping it will drop further.
Improvements to lighting, especially in and around the train station, have added to the safer atmosphere in Medford.
We'll keep a watching brief on the whole thing, and I think that this community now is set to thrive.
All proceeds from the picnic day will go towards a permanent memorial to Philip White. Phil Hind, NBN News.
There are some lovely moments in it, I think, which will go down extremely well. There are some very dramatic moments too, and if they get a standing ovation, well, that'll be fantastic as well.
Christine Loughran was asleep in bed at around 10 last night when the intruders broke into her home on Enterprise Way.
I heard a noise, run upstairs and got iron barred as I ran into the lounge room to see what was going on.
Wielding iron bars, the three men bashed her a number of times about the head. They also attacked a male friend who'd been sleeping on the couch.
They belted into his leg something terrible, and he can't walk on it. He'll have to go and have it x-rayed. I think it's broken.
Demanding money, the masked men then ransacked the house looking for valuables. They ripped a video machine from the wall before escaping in a white sedan. Ms Loughran says she's just relieved her 14-year-old daughter was out at the time. It's the second such offence in the street. The neighbour's house was broken into by bandits last week. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
The extensive mining activity in the Hunter region has provided a team of researchers at the Newcastle University with a unique opportunity. By analysing a large number of coal holes that have been drilled throughout the area, researchers have been able to develop a model which will assist in the charting of oil and gas deposits.
We can use those models to predict where oil and gas and different types of coal can be found, not only in our local area, but in fact all around the world.
The project is significant because randomly drilling for oil and gas is costly and without guarantee.
Success is usually only about 1 in 10 or 10%. We feel that with this and other techniques used together, high technology techniques, we may be able to increase that up to perhaps 9 out of 10.
It has been jointly funded by the federal and state governments, international oil and local coal companies. Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
It's 16 months since the bus and car collided on Lennigans Drive west of Newcastle, killing 4 people, a mother and her 3 children from Nelson Bay. But it's taken until the last couple of days for the family to get some answers about what went wrong in the vital few seconds before impact. The coroner was told the coach was travelling south towards Sydney with a busload of bowlers who'd spent the weekend in the Hunter Valley. Coming the other way was 16-year-old learner driver Matthew Freeman with a car full of people. As the coach topped the crest, the bus driver slammed on his brakes to avoid slow-moving traffic, only to jackknife onto the wrong side of the road and into the sedan. Some bus passengers said a white utility pulled in front of the coach just before impact, but that evidence was deemed unreliable. After hearing evidence from more than a dozen witnesses, Coroner Hand ruled there was insufficient evidence to charge the bus driver with an indictable offence. He went on to say that if the bus driver hadn't swerved and gone straight ahead, it's not known how many people would have been killed. But that was little consolation for the families of the victims who yelled abuse at Mr Dayton following the coroner's finding. The bus driver now must face a charge of negligent driving. Richard O'Leary, NBN News. The bandit walked into Metalcorp just before 10 this morning. He threatened staff with a shotgun and then fled with the proceeds in a stolen car. The vehicle was found less than a kilometre away, dumped in the car park at the Hexham McDonald's. Within minutes, police swooped on Hexham Swamp after neighbours reported a man prowling around nearby paddocks.
All I seen was a chap walking across near those tyres.
Reinforcements were called with fears the man was still armed and highly dangerous. The Westpac rescue helicopter was also flown in to help, but after several hours the search was abandoned. Police are calling on the public for assistance. The man is described as tall with a medium build and was last seen wearing jeans, a brown shirt and a balaclava. Richard O'Leary, NBN News.
While state and federal governments have been looking at solutions to the country's growing drug problem, Newcastle's Mater Hospital has been quietly testing a drug called naltrexone for the last 3 years.
It binds to the endorphins in the brain and prevents narcotics from binding to them. Therefore, it stops narcotics having any effect.
More powerful than Narcan, the drug used by ambulance officers to reverse the effects of heroin, naltrexone is given to patients daily at the end of the withdrawal process in the hope they kick heroin permanently. Dr. Foy is quick to stress naltrexone is no miracle drug, but it has had a 30% success rate in the preliminary Newcastle trial.
30% or one-third is better than you'd expect just with counselling alone following detoxification. So it is encouraging, and we feel quite strongly that it merits a more formal trial.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
The state government has acknowledged the imbalance of health funding in the Hunter region by granting a $12.6 million increase to Hunter Health.
The Hunter Area Health Service has been very underfunded for a long period of time, and the New South Wales government has recognised for some time that there needs to be a redistribution of resources across health in New South Wales.
The funding increase means the long wait for a paediatric oncologist at the John Hunter Hospital will soon be over. This will ease the burden on patients and their families by substantially reducing the time spent travelling to and from care in Sydney. An acute psychiatric unit at the Maitland Hospital and the West Lakes Polyclinic will benefit from the redistribution, and Hunter Health's commitment to community care services will also continue.
We have a commitment in the Hunter to providing more services in the community rather than wanting more beds. We feel that if we can keep people at home longer and for most of their illnesses, it's a much better way to go.
Antonia Kidman, NBN News.
The Merriwar community describes the amalgamation as a shotgun marriage, a union which has been forced upon them. Taking to the streets this week, locals voiced their opposition to plans to join the Mudgee and Merriwar services. Now they're going one step further, taking their fight to the courts. They're mounting a legal case against the state government, claiming it hasn't considered the consequences of the move.
Nobody in this community has approached by anybody in government to ascertain the impacts of this amalgamation.
But so far, their cries appear to have fallen on deaf ears. The Minister for Agriculture maintaining there are no legal grounds to contest, and the move will only cost ratepayers more money.
And I am very comfortable with accepting those recommendations and making sure that those few amalgamations around New South Wales go ahead.
Other boards facing a similar fate will be watching the case closely. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.
It was the coming together of cultures, one Christian, one Koori, in a ceremony of mutual respect, friendship and faith. Pomp and protocol were pushed aside for the arrival of the Archbishop of Canterbury, George Carey, given a spontaneous and heartfelt welcome by the people of Newcastle.
So we can walk this land hand in hand as one race, nation of people, without losing our place of belongings or our place of origin.
Like the first contact between our ancestors 200 years ago, ignorance was replaced with understanding, fear with friendship, and division with diversity.
We cannot undo history, but knowing the errors made in the past, we can perhaps clasp hands and join our voices together in peace and reconciliation.
Tribal elder Bill Smith put those wise words into practice, uniting the people as one.
This country, this land, our mother, needs healing.
But the most symbolic gesture of reconciliation came when religious leaders from many faiths asked for the forgiveness of the Aboriginal nation.
We, on behalf of the churches in this region, acknowledge that we have failed in our calling to be reconcilers in Christ. We have hurt our community, our region, this nation and each other.
Both powerful and moving, the apology was a sign of hope for the future.
The healing of this land is finally starting to happen, and that's the beginning, because there's more than just apologies. It is from their gut spiritual feelings and from the heart, and it's from the Spirit itself that they sincerely meant that in joining hands and working hands together. And I believe if all people in this country could take that to heart and listen.
Police say the woman lost control of a vehicle while she was driving south on Brunker Road, Broadmeadow, shortly after 10 o'clock last night. Her vehicle spun to the wrong side of the road and slammed sideways into a pole. The rear section struck a parked car. The dead woman was Donna Lee Tangy of Raymond Terrace. A male passenger travelling in a rear seat escaped with minor injuries. About an hour later on the Pacific Highway at Belmont, a house was badly damaged in an unusual accident. Police say the driver lost control of his utility, then rammed a parked car. The stationary car was pushed over the footpath, through a fence, finally crashing into the corner of a dwelling several houses away. The crash caused considerable structural damage to the house. The out-of-control utility finally stopped in the front yard of the damaged building. The driver was trapped for a short time. After treatment in Belmont Hospital, he was allowed to go home.